Hey guys, I'm back, and I do have a good excuse for not being here last week. See, last Monday, which was Memorial Day, I tried to turn my computer on, and lo and behold, it wouldn't turn on. Actually, it did turn on. The screen just wouldn't turn on. So I panicked, and luckily I have a Mac, and when I bought my Mac, I also bought the 3-year service plan. And I'm telling you, it is worth it because I got it back within 2 days. It works fine. It was the graphics card, and so it just had to be replaced. But because of that, I didn't have a way to make a video that day. So now, today I do, and hopefully I'm going to make it up to you. So there was a question asked, and I thought it was a really good question, is how do you get over the need to be rescued, or the feeling of being the damsel in distress. And I think that's a very common feeling sometimes when you're in recovery. And first of all, I think you have to look at what are you trying to be rescued from. And if you are trying to be rescued from something, that means that you're avoiding something. The need to be rescued is avoiding your biggest fear, basically. So what are you afraid of that you're trying to be rescued from? I would say a common fear is probably abandonment. Sometimes I think we feel like our eating disorders give us some security, and maybe when, especially for somebody trying to recover, maybe you might feel like, okay, I don't have my eating disorder, and now I feel raw and insecure, and you feel like I need someone to rescue me from this feeling. And in the beginning, you may have a therapist, or you may have people that are there to support you, but you might be more comfortable being sick, because when you're sick, you have people to take care of you, people to pay attention to that sickness. And even if it's a negative thing, it still fulfills that need to be validated, and it's really an avoidance pattern. It's still avoiding what your deepest fear is. And sometimes I think we're afraid of when we get well. I don't remember who said it, but there's a quote out there that says our greatest fear is not that we're not a failure, but that we're great and that we're powerful, and that we're afraid of our own power. And I think that is the bottom line. We're afraid of our own power. We're afraid what will happen if we take total responsibility for ourselves. Because if we take total responsibility for ourselves, that means we can't blame anybody anymore. We don't have an excuse. We can wake up in the morning and say, if we're in a rescue mode or victim mode, then we always have a way out when something doesn't go our way, or when we do something we can blame it on. Well, it's because of this. Well, I couldn't go to work today because I was depressed because of my eating disorder, something like that. When you are a person that has decided to take responsibility and to use your own inner power, then you can wake up in the morning, you can feel bad, and you can choose not to go to work, but you have to admit to yourself that you made that choice. And yeah, I feel crappy right now. I'm choosing to not be productive. I'm choosing to basically do things that are not going to help me progress, but that's my choice. And so you have to get to a point where you're willing to say, my choices, my feelings and my choices, they're mine, and I'm in control of what I do with them. And it feels out of control to do that to some extent, because that means you have to be really honest with yourself, totally and completely. You have to look at yourself in an honest way. And that can be really difficult for a lot of people, not just people with eating disorders. I think people in general, and that's a hard thing, especially, I would say in Western culture, that's especially true, because we are so used to feeling entitled, and we're, look at all the lawsuits that happen over people spilling McDonald's coffee on themselves. I mean, that's the epitome of wanting to be rescued and not wanting to take personal responsibility, instead of saying, oh, I was a klutz and I just spilled my coffee over myself. Well, it was an accident and I got burned, but that's part of life. Instead, we want to blame somebody else. Well, if that coffee wouldn't have been so hot, or if they would have warned me, then I would, their warning would have suddenly not made me a klutz and I would have been fine. Which is probably not true, but that is the distortion in the rescue mentality. I need to be rescued means I need to give my power to someone else because I am afraid of my own power. So we have to start taking our power back. There is a really good Carolyn Mace. It's MYSS is her last name. She has a really good it's a not even a book on tape, because I don't think she's even written a book. It's just called Selfesteem, Your Fundamental Power. You can go to hayhousepublishing.com. I think has it. I think I downloaded it off of Amazon. I don't remember how much it cost, but it is well worth the probably $15 to $20 to spend and to listen to that. That is one of the most empowering CDs that I've ever listened to help me to realize, hey, this is what taking back my power and choices are. And once you decide to do that, it can be scary. And it's not just scary for you, because once you start to take your own power, you upset the balance, and that means everybody around you has to adjust to that too. And people who aren't used to you taking your own power, and that's gonna, if they're not secure with themselves, that's going to rock those relationships. And so getting out of that mentality is not just a simple choice. I mean, if you take 30 minutes a day and meditate, that's going to change the world, because that's 30 minutes a day that you weren't thinking about you and your direction and your choices. And when you start thinking about that, you're going to start taking action. You're going to start changing your outlook, and that's going to affect everybody else. And some people aren't going to like that, because suddenly they feel threatened because you're moving up and you're changing and you're evolving. And if somebody is basing their part of their equilibrium or balance or identity with your equilibrium, then suddenly it shakes theirs. And the same can happen with somebody else. I mean, if you're not secure in yourself, and you have a really good friend who suddenly decides to go their own way and grow themselves and empower themselves, suddenly you may find yourself feeling like, hey, they're ignoring me, or hey, what have I done to offend them, or I don't like this upset of balance. I don't like that they're going this direction. It's not in my realm. If we're all truly comfortable in our relationships, we could allow each other to do that, because we would know that we have our power within ourselves. It's not going to affect our relationships with each other. But those are the things that we have to look at to change that balance. And it's difficult and it's hard, and it's a big step. You have to decide that you're willing and that you want to take that power, because once you decide to do that, you can't go back. You can't go back without knowing what you're doing, without having to acknowledge to yourself, because once you have that knowledge in that, and you do acknowledge that, then you know what you're doing, and when you go back, you know it, and you're not going to like it, you're not going to be comfortable with it, you're going to be miserable. So, but I can tell you that when you do decide to start taking your power, that it is, even though it's uncomfortable, it's a wonderful experience, and just take one step at a time, a little bit at a time, and start to be honest with yourself every time, and evaluate when you are in a situation where you feel like you need to be rescued, where you can get to a point and say, why do I need to be rescued? What am I avoiding? And how are there healthy ways that I can accomplish this? And not necessarily by yourself, because we're not meant to be totally by ourselves. We're interdependent. We can use the support and love of other people, but we can do it in a way that we are taking responsibility, and that helps both of us, and in the end it's more balanced. So have a good night.